Ladies and gentlemen, hello over there. You are watching L24, streaming live from the capital Algiers. And coming up next in our news program. The EU High Representative Joseph Borrell affirmed that readiness to support Algerian authorities in recovering looted funds from abroad. Still with Joseph Borrell, the High Representative of the European Union, he reaffirmed the EU's attachment to the two-state solution in his speech to the plenary session of the European Parliament on the developments in Palestine. Saudi Arabia's finance minister said that Saudi investment into Iran could happen very quickly following an agreement aimed at restoring diplomatic ties. Tensions erupted in Paris on Wednesday during the 8th day of demonstrations against the pension reform. Hello again and welcome. I'm your host Abdulrahim Kashur, and those were today's top stories. The head of the Algerian Movement of Society for Peace, Abdelrazak al-Makri, praised on Wednesday in Algiers the openness of President Abdelmajid Tebboune to discussion and dialogue on important issues. In a statement he made after his meeting with President Tebboune, al-Makri said that on the eve of the holding of his party's conference, which will make the end of his term as the head of the movement, he wanted to meet with the Algerian president to thank him for the positive atmosphere and the openness to discussion and dialogue.
I
wanted to meet with the President of the Republic to thank him for the positive atmosphere that marked our relation as an opposition party with the President of the Republic, who had been open throughout the entire mandate to discussions and dialogue on the country's issues. He also showed openness regarding some points of view that could have been diverging. It was a good phase that will remain in my memory, and it was my duty to ask for a meeting with him to thank him for the amazing experience I had and the fruitful meetings that we held. I solemnly reiterate my thanks to the President of the Republic for the good atmosphere that prevailed between us.
Algeria continues to make diplomatic achievements in many vital fields, the latest of which is the European Union's commitment to back the Algerian authorities in recovering looted funds from abroad, thus expanding international support to Algeria in the fight against corruption. Mohammed Khatou.
Algeria is making great strides in achieving diplomatic victories at the economic, political and security levels. Among these victories is the European commitment to intensify cooperation with Algeria in the field of freezing and recovering smuggled funds and assets, a move that comes to expand the international response to Algerian calls to engage in the fight against corruption. The EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Joseph Borrell, affirmed the readiness of the European body to support Algeria in this field.
The fight against corruption and money laundering is a priority for the EU and for Algeria. We have discussed this issue as well as the recovery of illegally acquired money and the illegal transfer of funds. I'm convinced of the importance of reinforcing cooperation in this field. The will of the Algerian state to recover the looted money will enjoy the support of the European Union.
For his part, the President of the European Union Agency for Criminal Justice Cooperation, Ladislav Hamran, announced during a visit he made to Algeria that his agency is willing and committed to providing technical assistance to the Algerian judicial authorities in dealing with the files related to the recovery of looted funds.
We are ready and committed to providing any kind of necessary technical assistance and support to all the Algerian judicial authorities in the field of investigation, in addition to facilitating communication with their European counterparts in dealing with files related to the recovery of looted funds and assets.
Algeria is engaged in the fight against corruption with international support that is expanding day after day in its capacity as a reliable partner with international reputation at a time when the world is drowning in multidimensional and multifaceted corruption.
The sixth session of the Algerian-Polish political consultation was held on Wednesday here in Algiers under the co-chairmanship of the Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Mr. Ammar Blani, and the Polish Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs in charge of Development, Cooperation and Africa and the Middle East Policy, Paul Jablonski. This meeting allowed the two parties to review bilateral relations in general and prospects for further promoting them thanks to the political and economic reforms undertaken by Algeria and in light of the current geopolitical changes prevailing in the world.
I am very glad to be in Algeria today and yesterday during these political consultations, today at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, yesterday also at the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Energy, also with our companies, with Polish business. We believe that this is a very important step.
Algerian Energy Minister Mohamed Arqab warned that Western price caps on Russian crude oil could lead to uncertainty and supply disruption. The Algerian Ministry of Energy stated the recent developments in the global oil market in the short and medium term are of great concern, pointing out that the countries which sealed the deal have shown an exceptional wisdom and foresight by taking the unanimous and transparent decision to reduce the total production by 2 million barrels per day in order to ensure the stability and the balance of the global oil markets for the benefit of the global economy. The Algerian-Russian Parliamentary Friendship Group was today installed at the headquarters of the Council of Nations between the Algerian Upper House of Parliament and the Federal Council of Russian Federation. The inauguration was supervised by the Deputy Speaker of the Council of the Nation, Abdel Nasser Hammoud, and the Ambassador of the Russian Federation to Algiers, Valerian Shuvaev. The Parliamentary Friendship Group is aimed at strengthening the existing relations of cooperation, consultation and coordination between the two countries' chambers.
اليوم لجنة الصداقة بين الفدرالية روسيا والمجلس الأمة.
The Parliamentary Friendship Group between the Russian Federation and the Council of the Nation was installed today. We committed to cooperation in all fields of endeavor. We know that there is a large cooperation between Russia and Algeria in the field of energy, sport, culture, medicine and pharmaceuticals, and other fields. We witness now a strong cooperation in the mining and energy fields, especially renewable energies.
بالنسبة حتى الليمين وليزينيرجي وميم ليزينيرجي رينوفلابل.
The head of the political bureau of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, praised Algeria's role in support of Palestinian cause and the leadership efforts to concretize the Palestinian reconciliation and reunification agreements after his meeting with the Algerian National Assembly Speaker Saleh Goujil.
I express in my name and in the name of Hamas Movement's delegation our thanks and gratitude to the Speaker of the Council of the Nation, Saleh Goujil, and our dear brothers who receive Palestinians with warmth and who support the Palestinian resistance. We don't find lots of difficulties in explaining the developments of the Palestinian cause or the requirements of the resistance against the occupation when we are in Algerian lands.
According to Belgian press sources, Antonio Benzari, the primary suspect in the Morocco Gate affair, admitted to investigators, or rather in the investigation, that he and his colleagues Maria Arena visited Morocco at the expense of Abdulrahim Ottoman, the Moroccan ambassador to Poland. Marim Zian on what follow.
Revelations succeed one another at high speed. The Belgian newspaper Le Soir revealed the latest investigation of corruption caused by Morocco in the European Parliament. The report reveals a suspicious relationship between the head of the subcommittee on human rights in the European Parliament, Maria Arena, with the main suspect in the Morocco Gate scandal, Antonio Panzeri, and their visit to Moroccan tourist cities. The same sources reported that Panzeri confessed that he had taken advantage of his stay in a five-star Moroccan hotel accompanied by his Belgian colleague Maria Arena in 2015, which was paid by the Moroccan ambassador to Poland, Abderrahim Othmoun. The confessions of the Belgian Member of Parliament resulted in the resignation of Maria Arena.
I have decided to leave the presidency of the Subcommittee on Human Rights in the European Parliament. This decision was taken as a result of the political and media attacks I have been subjected to in recent weeks.
And in relation to the scandals within the European Parliament, Judge Michel Claes will continue to lead the investigation into alleged acts of corruption in the Parliament, as Brussels Court of Appeal rejected the request for his disqualification presented by the Member of Parliament, Mark Tarabella. The extent of the Makhzen regime's corruption will be made crystal clear to the world by investigation revelations and confessions in the Morocco Gate scandal.
Mauritania and Western Sahara held a diplomatic meeting between President Mohamed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani and Minister Advisor Mohamed Sanem Ould Salek of the Polisario Front. During the meeting, President Al Ghazouani received a written message from President Ibrahim Ghali of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. The two officials discussed the historical bilateral relations between the two countries, which are developing and strengthening for the benefit of the people. Still in the African continent, in the Sahel region, the Niger army has claimed the death of 30 militants from the Boko Haram terrorist group and the capture of hundreds who fled Nigeria due to battles with terrorist organizations. More on this story with Hussam Burkan.
In a positive development in the fight against terrorism in the Sahel region, the Niger army has announced the elimination of at least 30 militants from the Boko Haram terrorist group, with hundreds more arrested as they fled from battles with ISIS. The armies of the Sahel region have been working tirelessly to combat terrorism and respond to its attacks with increasing success. The Sahel region armies have intensified their efforts to confront the phenomenon of terrorism by adopting security plans and comprehensive strategies to recover the regions and cleanse the African coast of terrorist groups.
Around 30 terrorists were neutralized and 960 other people, most of whom were women and children, were detained, taken to the town of Difa and handed over to the Nigerian military authorities.
The fight against terrorism in the Sahel region has seen Mali's Minister of Defense announcing weekly qualitative results from eliminating terrorists and the recovery of large areas by the armed forces that were under the control of the terrorist groups. Burkina Faso, which has also witnessed an extensive spread of terrorist groups for years, has seen its armed forces achieve qualitative results through the adoption of comprehensive plans to address the phenomena. The latest of which was when the General Staff of the Army announced the elimination of 112 terrorists during several operations that enabled it to regain control of the eastern northern region of the country. These results reaffirm that the Bamako and Ouagadougou authorities said last February that the defeat of terrorism can only be achieved by relying on national armies away from foreign interventions that have exacerbated the complexity of the security situation in the Sahel region. While the fight against terrorism in the Sahel region remains challenging, the efforts of the armies of the region are starting to pay off, with tangible results being seen on the ground.
Concerning the Middle East now, Josep Borrell, the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, reaffirmed the EU's attachment to the two-state solution and called for an end to the occupation in his speech to the plenary session of the European Parliament on the developments in Palestine. He stressed that the settlements are illegal under international law and that expansion must stop, as well as demolitions and exclusions of Palestinians from their homes. Borrell expressed the EU's commitment to working with its international partners to find a peaceful solution to the conflict in Palestine. In the same matter, a young Palestinian was injured by bullets while others suffocated following clashes with Zionist occupation forces in the northeast of Hebron. Meanwhile, Zionist forces detained 23 Palestinians from several areas in the occupied West Bank, 5 Palestinians from Hebron, Nablus, Jenin, Beit Lahm, Tal Karam, Allal, and Ramallah. Saudi Arabia's Finance Minister Mohammed Al-Jaddan said on Wednesday that Saudi investments into Iran could happen very quickly following an agreement aimed at restoring diplomatic ties. Iran and Saudi Arabia agreed on Friday to re-establish relations and reopen embassies within 2 months after years of aggression following talks in China. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad arrived in Moscow for the first time in 15 years to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Putin praised the joint results achieved in the field of combating terrorism in Syria and confirmed that relations with Syria are constantly developing, with the volume of trade exchange increasing. Al-Assad appreciated the stability of Russia's position on the war in Syria, despite its entry into war against what he called neo-Nazis in Ukraine.
Thanks to our joint efforts and decisive contribution of the Russian armed forces in Syria, we achieved significant results in the fight against international terrorism. This makes it possible to stabilize the social, economic, and internal political situation. I would like to take the occasion of this first visit since the war in Ukraine to renew the Syrian position in support of this war against the neo-Nazis and old Nazis. I say there are the old Nazis and the neo-Nazis because the West both hosted the old Nazis on its soil before and after World War II. Now, it supports them in the present times as well.
Now in Europe, tensions erupted in Paris on Wednesday during the 8th day of demonstrations against pensions reform. French people hoping to preserve their retirement benefits took to the streets of nationwide on as President Emmanuel Macron's unpopular pension plan was validated by a committee of lawmakers meeting behind closed doors. Macron had the means on the joint Senate and National Assembly committee to advance his plan to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64, but it remains to be seen whether it can command a parliamentary majority.
Cette loi sera défaite.
This bill will be defeated. It will be defeated either tomorrow by our vote at the Assembly, or it will be defeated after tomorrow by the people's voices, with 2 out of 3 French people and 3 out of 4 workers refusing these reforms. In the long run, this bill is not legitimate, and it will be defeated.
And from France, England, Jeremy Hunt, British Finance Minister, submitted the 2023 budget, which includes measures to speed up Britain's deteriorating economy. The plan includes childcare and tax reforms to get more people into work, as well as corporate tax breaks to boost low levels of business investment.
In the face of enormous challenges, I report today on a British economy which is proving the doubters wrong. In the autumn, we took difficult decisions to deliver stability and sound money. Since mid-October, 10-year gilt rates have fallen, debt servicing costs are down, mortgage rates are lower, and inflation has peaked. The International Monetary Fund says our approach means the UK economy is on the right track.
And now for more international news, let's follow this roundup.
At least 10 people have been killed after heavy rains triggered flash floods in Turkey's southeastern Adıyaman province. Floodwater carried away cars and debris and flooded the basement and ground floors of some buildings, turning roads into rivers in some areas. According to the country's disaster management authority, the search and rescue efforts for the missing and people trapped in their buildings continued with divers and boats. Peru's President Dina Boluarte issued a red alert for Lima and surrounding areas after the devastation caused by Cyclone Yaku. The cyclone shaken south after leaving dozens of families without homes and a death toll of at least 6 in the northern provinces. Authorities from Peru's National Hydrology and Meteorology Service said earlier on Tuesday they expected Yaku to leave Peruvian territory over the next few days.
Fierce clashes erupted on Wednesday evening between police and Eintracht Frankfurt fans, who threw objects toward police and set fire to their cars after Italian authorities banned German supporters from the stadium due to the security concerns following violence between fans in the first game in Germany. It's worth noting that the fans of both teams clashed prior to the first game in Frankfurt, with the police having labeled that game as high risk. Over 1,000 Hungarians took to the street of Budapest on Wednesday to protest against the government's education policies on the country's national holiday. Teachers, students and civil rights groups marched carrying a 48-meter-long Hungarian flag, symbolizing the 1848 revolution against Austrian rule. The demonstrators were demanding higher wages, a solution to the shortage of teachers, and the right to strike.
In the closure of our news bulletin, we end up with the sport and with Champions League results. Real Madrid have beaten Liverpool 1-0 to advance to the quarterfinals of the Champions League by an aggregate score of 6-2 on a night when both goalkeepers distinguished themselves with brilliant saves. Karim Benzema scored the lone goal of the match in the 78th minute, which makes Carlo Ancelotti's team advance to the last 8 of the competition for the 3rd season in a row. On the other hand, on the other game, Napoli could secure the second win against Eintracht Frankfurt 3-0, which makes it 5-0 in aggregate 2 games. Luciano Spalletti's side are close to securing their first Serie A title in over 3 decades, and our already remarkable season got even better with a place in the Friday draw for the last 8 of Europe's top club competition. And to this end, ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for being with us in this midnight news bulletin. And all I can say for now, take care of yourself. Good night.